Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please, please allow me to welcome you once again to Football is a Religion. Right. I'm your host once again, Pube Simpati Mhlaba. And right now we're going to be discussing the Europa League, the UEFA Europa League. Right. Well, well, well. I can assure you none of y'all expected that to happen. None of y'all expected that to happen. Guess what? Guess what? Let's head straight to Anfield. Liverpool 0, Atalanta 3. Shock. That's the shock of the quarterfinal clashes, in the Europa League so far. That's a shock. And another thing that is even worth noting is that now Liverpool have only kept one clean sheet, in 14 home games in all competition. Only one. And now Liverpool currently they face a huge battle in order to stay in the Europa League. After following the fact that they now suffered a shock home defeat to Atalanta in the quarterfinal first leg at Anfield. And guess who was on the score sheet? The former West Ham United forward, Gianluca Scamacca. He scored in each half before the ex-Chelsea player Mario Pasalic, added a late third to actually ensure the Italians start strong favourites to actually reach the semi-finals when the sides meet, in next Thursday's return in Bergamo. Unbelievable. That was unprecedented. Something unprecedented really happened at Anfield. Scamacca, he broke the deadlock, in the 38th minute of the game. Just after, Coleman Kelleher, allowed his low drive to actually creep underneath him. And, you would expect the Liverpool goalkeeper to actually do better from there. And which, on a deeply frustrating night, for the below par Liverpool, Darwin Núñez actually missed two big opportunities. Whereas Harvey Elliott, his curling attempt, struck the bar before dropping onto the post. On the other hand, Mohamed Salah, who started on the bench, forced a fine save from Joan Musso, after Kelleher had, attempted for his error to actually stop the unmarked Tian Coupe Miners, from doubling Atalanta's lead. Then the Egyptian also, he had a goal disallowed for offside. But in actual fact, what I can just say about Liverpool, the Reds, they were very flat. They were flat. They lacked urgency in their play. They were just not as clinical as they normally are. And they were punished for some dreadful defending. Scamacca, who just had one season at West Ham before joining Atalanta last August, took advantage of being left unmarked, by doubling the lead with a crisp finish, on the hour mark. And then guess what? Pasalic, securing the victory in the early 8th minute of the game. His strike came after the Brazilian midfielder Edison, was afforded too much space to actually shoot. And when Kelleher made the save, the Croatian was actually able to actually snap up the rebound to actually score the third goal for Atalanta, which basically, you might say that she seals this tie. But anything can happen in the second leg. You can never write off Liverpool. And now the winners of this tie perhaps will face, either Benfica or Marseille in the semi-finals, with Benfica establishing a 2-1 first leg advantage to take to France next week. So, hey man, let's just say, I guess that was like the worst performance I've ever seen under Jurgen Klopp. That was the worst performance I've seen under Jurgen Klopp, man. And I wouldn't blame the fact that Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool manager, he looked so bewildered at the final whistle. Imagine now seeing your side, comprehensively beaten by Atalanta, who sit sixth in the Serie A and trailed the leaders Inter Milan by 32 points. And from that, the fact that the Liverpool boss actually made 6 changes to the side that drew, 2-2 at Manchester United on Sunday. He has actually enjoyed some incredible European nights, under the lights at, Anfield during his 9 years in charge. But, this could also, be the last time he experiences a European home game. After, his side, they were poor. Liverpool was second best to a clinical Atalanta. The players and their management team celebrated in front of their jubilant travelling supporters long after the final whistle. Liverpool, have been looking, to put the disappointment of Old Trafford and dropping 2 points in the title race behind them. But, instead they are now fighting to stay in Europe after one of their poorest performances of the season and a first home loss since like the Champions League last 16 tie against Real Madrid in February 2023. Remember Real Madrid beat them 5-2, and with the fact that even Liverpool had welcome back Diogo Jota from injury after a 2-month absence, it just was not enough to inspire the Reds. They were looking to establish a comfortable cushion to actually take to Italy before 3 successive Premier League away games inside a week. But they are not, they never got going in this particular encounter. And Klopp's home of ending, his hope of ending his Liverpool reign at the Europa League final in Dublin on May 22 looks like a distant dream, to say the least, because what a dismal performance from Liverpool. Embarrassing, to say the least. It was embarrassing. The Reds could have done better. They could have done better. Right. Then, the high-flying Bayer Leverkusen. They just left it late to actually defeat West Ham by 2-0. At the Bayer Arena. And guess what? Jonas Hofmann, he came off the bench to actually break West Ham's resistance. And David Moyes now insists that West Ham are still in the tie, despite like 2 late goals, condemning his side to defeat in the first leg of the Europa League quarterfinal against Bayer Leverkusen. But let's just say, man, Jonas Hofmann, he fired through a crowd of bodies, for Xabi Alonso's side after the visitors struggled to actually clear a corner with 7 minutes remaining. It was one of those games it was pretty much in a balance, man. You thought that these teams would head back to the London Stadium, deadlocked, right? And, for the fact that Victor Boniface, when he doubled the lead in the first minute of injury time with a well-directed header from Hoffman's cross, Alonso's hosts actually dominated possession, but they were actually largely frustrated, by a superbly organized Hammers defense. Up until that late intervention by, Hofmann, which actually put, Bayer Leverkusen in the lead. But look, let's just say West Ham United have half a chance going into the second leg. I would say that, right? They still do have a chance because 2-0 is never a safe lead. Let me be real. Yes, you might be trailing by 2-0 away from home, but going back home with the supporters on your side, you playing on your ground, familiar territory, that's never going to be a problem for you to actually get back into the game. But it's still going to require a great performance, right? It's going to require a very spectacular performance from the Hammers to actually get back into the game because, you never know what's actually going to happen, because it just depends on West Ham, how they're going to perform, how they're actually going to come out of their shell. Because now in the second leg, they have no choice but to come out of their shell and actually play their best football. But look, they can still score 2 goals at the London Stadium or even score 3 if they want to. But let's just say with their performance in this particular encounter, the visitors actually showed some great discipline to actually limit Leverkusen's chances for much of the game. Whilst, they also offered a threat, on the counter through the pace and power of like the Jamaican striker Mikel Antonio. And Antonio, he created arguably the best opportunity, of the first half as he broke down the left. And then we saw him like when he squared that ball for Mohamed Kudus, but it was that particular situation where the Ghanaian winger shot, was straight at the Leverkusen goalkeeper, Matej, Kovar, right? But you could tell that West Ham, are not really a pushover. They're not out of it. Yes, coming into this game, they were the least fancied opponent, but you could never underestimate them like that. Because West Ham, they did not West Ham did need actually a couple of very smart saves from their goalkeeper, Lucas Fabianski, to actually keep Leverkusen at bay for as long as they did. Because the 38-year-old goalkeeper, he got down very well to actually deny Patrick Schick, in the first half before leaping, to tip the striker's head over the bar in the second half, when, he looked, to have actually been wrong-footed. But Hoffmann finally found a way, past Fabianski. And when Boniface nodded the second, it was just basically the icing on the cake. And now Leverkusen have assured of victory to stretch their unbeaten run to 42 matches this season. So look, man, on the side of West Ham United, it is a big ask for them. The Hammers, it is a big ask for them. But yeah, man, the plan comes unstuck for them. And like I said, David Moyes' strategy was evident from the off. West Ham they were so content to actually sit deep, frustrate their hosts and actually look to break break when the opportunity arose. They so nearly executed it to perfection, with Leverkusen failing to create any sort of like clear chances in the first hour or so. But look, David Moyes in the second leg, they need to do more of attacking, and that's exactly what they do. They would have. What you could tell is that West Ham would have loved to have played more attacking. The players, the Hammers actually did so much of a good job in terms of like keeping the structure of the play. But look, playing against a Champions League side, they're not quite at that level as yet, the Hammers. They will get there one day if they are consistent enough. Because even their league form has been telling over the past couple of months. Even though they're in contention, they're in pole contention for European football next season. But, they're very inconsistent, our West Ham United. And what I can just say, the pressure told, and the Hammers, must now end the Germans' side unbeaten run and do it in some style to actually progress. It's not going to be very easy for the Hammers, but they have to. They have to put up a very scintillating performance if they are to, progress to the last four. And, Antonio, when you come back to the game, right? Antonio was a nuisance throughout. He caused the defender Jonathan Tah, plenty of problems, and he will give them, which perhaps will give the Hammers like some sort of encouragement. And while getting Jared Bowen back fit for the second leg, would also be a huge bond, right? Even more so, given that they will be without Emerson, Palmieri, and crucially Lucas Paqueta through suspension after they were both, shown yellow cards. West Ham have to now like recognize the fact that they will be playing against a very good club, a team, the only side that is unbeaten in Europe's top five leagues, So it tells you a lot that West Ham are gonna have to put up some performance. They have to do exceptionally well in order to get a result. Because remember, West Ham, they overturned the first leg deficit to actually beat a German opposition handsomely in the last round. So a repeat will take some doing, but all is not lost. And if they can score the first goal at London Stadium next week, there will be some sense of optimism and, some belief that, they will soon return to a Hammer side, that is increasingly savvy in the European competition. And as for Leverkusen, wow, their unbeaten run just continues. And they've left it late. The German top flight leaders now have made it like late goals a habit this season. Remember, they scored deep, twice deep in stoppage time to actually beat Karabakh in the last 16. And this wasn't quite as dramatic, but they were still, made to wait, by a stubborn West Ham side. West Ham showed so much resilience. They showed so much courage. They showed so much determination. And despite that, Leverkusen never showed any sort of panic. And they attacked the Hammers relentlessly, looking for any space to exploit around the penalty area. And look, I mean, Leverkusen is a club that you can see the players, they believe in themselves. They believe in themselves. They believe that they've got the quality to actually score in every minute that they can. So, against teams like West Ham and others, who come to the Bay Arena, it is always difficult to find space because they sit so deep. And let's just say it, man, it was. And, it took just two set pieces, to actually break down West Ham United. With Hoffman, shining a volley through a crowded penalty area after the initial ball was not cleared. And also, he provided a cross. From goal scorer, he then turned provider. Following a short corner with Boniface, rising the highest, at the back post to actually head home his 17th goal of the season. It wasn't an easy game for them, but they were very deep and always had a lot of players in the area. So let's just say, man, the job is not done. Right? They waited for the right moment, but the job is not yet done for Xabi Alonso's team. They know how to win, though. And with a healthy advantage going into the second leg, they will be confident of advancing to the semifinals. Definitely, right? Deservedly if they do, right? Deservedly. So, yeah, it's that particular type of thing. And let's go straight to Portugal. Portugal. The capital city, Lisbon. The capital city of Portugal is Lisbon. Let's head straight there. Benfica took on Marseille, Olympic Marseille. So yeah, Benfica emerging, victorious by 2-1. Let's just say, look, Benfica, they looked in control of the tie. and Di Maria made it 2-0 in the 57th minute of the game. Di Maria has got a scintillating record in this tournament. Remember that wonderful goal that he scored for Juventus last season? Who can ever forget that? When he scored a hat-trick for Juventus in the Europa League last season. Who can ever forget that? But look, Benfica, they beat Marseille in the first leg of the Europa League quarterfinal. Rafa Silva, gave the Portuguese host the lead after controlling Casper, Tanksted's pass before sweeping in. That was wonderful play from Benfica. Clearly superb play, superb team play from the Portuguese. From the Portuguese champion. That was superb play. Wonderful play, just knocking the ball around. That like one-touch football is like tiki-taka. That was a wonderful goal, man. Superb play. And it was finished well. And then guess what? Di Maria, he doubled their lead from a David Neres ball to actually finish off a fine move. And then, the Europa League all-time leading goal scorer, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he gave Marseille some glimmer of hope, right? Of actually, coming back from a 2-goal deficit. Remember, Marseille are actually like 8th in the league, in their domestic lead. And they will have this sense of hope of going into next week's second leg, in France, as, he was able to, as you saw Aubameyang, he scored a wonderful goal, He was able to race on to an Unai through ball. Unai, the Moroccan, threaded a wonderful through ball, to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who fired the ball into the back of the net. And I can just say, that was a wonderful through ball played by the Moroccan. And he has shown so much of his quality, right? I wonder if the big guns are going to come for him. I'm referring to maybe in the Premier League, because I would love to see Unai playing in the Premier League. And then what else can we say, right? The former Benfica boss, Sven Goran Eriksson, who has cancer, was given a guard of honor on their pitch at halftime. And the winners of the tie will either face, Atalanta or Liverpool in the semi-finals. And remember, Atalanta just won their first leg by 3-0 at Anfield. So, it's still going to go down to the wire. It's not over yet, guys. It's really not over yet. It's still the first leg. But, we have seen some surprising results, to say the least. I've seen some surprising results that I didn't expect at all. So, but it's not over yet. It's definitely not over. Let's head straight to the Italian affair, the all-Italian affair. Right, and this was a cracking game. This game, it always has everything, right? The rivalry at its best. When you're watching AC Milan versus Roma game, you're always expecting so much drama, so much rivalry. You're always expecting so much in terms of like scintillating display on the field. The fans in the crowd. You're always expecting so much. And a quarterfinal in a quarterfinal clash between these two Italian giants, in a European encounter, says a lot. But look, when you look at this particular encounter, the fact that Roma emerged victorious at the San Siro by a 1-0, Mancini scoring that like header, which leaves the lackluster, AC Milan needing to, bounce back in the second leg at the Stadio Olimpico. But, AC Milan, they've given themselves, a lot to actually do in the return fixture. As they lost their first leg, of the Europa League quarterfinal tie, by a 1-0 against Roma at home at San Siro on Thursday night. And the only goal of the game, came early on, as Gianluca Mancini was given freedom of the 18-yard box to actually head on a corner from, having lost his marker. And, Stefan Pioli, the AC Milan coach, was actually lamenting the fact that, Lukaku was in an offside position. And basically that opportunity that led to the corner kick in the first place, it should have been given as like an offside, right? But anyway, that was a great save by the AC Milan goalkeeper, which actually led to the corner. But yes, Lukaku was offside. But you know what, if the linesman did not see that, then I guess, they shouldn't really be much of a big deal. But I guess, look, AC Milan were very lackluster. They were very lethargic, to say the least. Because, look, Roma, after, scoring that goal early on, right, they would go on to actually frustrate AC Milan. They limited them mostly to shots from outside the box. Olivier Giroud really should have actually leveled the tie, in the game when he rattled the crossbar from about 6 yards out. But it seems like that was actually Roma's game plan, I meant to say. it looked like Daniela De Rosa's game plan was to actually like say, you know what, let's go early and then we actually like, defend and frustrate them, because that's exactly what they did. AC Milan really had limited, clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. And it is actually a big blow for, the Rossoneri, who have now seen their 7-game winning run, come to an end. And now they must actually win at the Stadio Olimpico in 1 week if they are to stand a chance of actually reaching the semi-finals. And coming into this one, Stefano Pioli actually made 3 changes, to the starting 11 compared to the team that actually beat Lecce last week. With Malik Teo coming in for the suspended, Fikayo Tomori, Ismail Benacer, joining Tijani Reidness, in the midfield, alongside Ruben Loftus-Cheek returning as the playmaker, with Samuel Chukwueze dropping to the bench. And what is actually needless to say, on the other hand of the team, when you look at the team from the capital, AS Roma, they actually had plenty of possession, in the early stages, without actually managing to threaten, right? And, Sliva, was actually the first goalkeeper called into action inside the 9th minute, when he had to parry a low shot on the edge of the box from Reynolds, who actually fired at pace and drew a great parry from him. And you look at the fact that when you look at Roma, the danger man was Romelu Lukaku. His hold-up play was what actually, had Roma. Lukaku's hold-up play was what Roma looked for early on, and he did so brilliantly, to actually work the ball wide to Stefan Al-Sharawi, who tried to put Pellegrini through on goal. Yet, David, Calabria was actually on hand to actually make a last-ditch, tackle. But let's say Magnan, the AC Milan goalkeeper, was called into action for the first time on 15 minutes, which was a great save that he produced. It was an incredible leaping stop to actually deny Stefan Al-Sharawi, from a Lukaku cutback that deflected as it was actually dipping under the bar. And the replay, it did actually show that the Belgian was actually in an offside position. So, but it clearly was not seen. It was not like actually called for. Well, that would really mean that, there was some controversy when the away side, took the lead from the resulting corner. And it could have actually been easier for Mancini to nod the ball inside the far post, as, he got away from his marker and was actually found 6 yards out. And I would say, you look at the fact that Pioli, has got every right to be furious that, the prior offside hadn't been given, but in actual fact, AC Milan should have defended that properly. They should have done better defensively. And the fact that, you look at their response, it came with a period of pressure, and there were 2 consecutive, scrambles, inside the box from the corners. The first actually saw Lukaku actually clear Giroud's header off the line, and then Smalling, provided a crucial intervention deep inside his own box. And then Al-Sharawi as well. This particular encounter was that type of an encounter where it's like, okay, it's more of, it just needed that one moment, which would, prove to separate both clubs, just that one moment. And that's the thing that you often see in big games sometimes. In big games, what you often see is just that one moment that will actually, be the determining factor, which will be the tell-in factor, in terms of like how the complexion of the game will go and how the complexion of the tie will actually be like, going into the second leg at the Stadio Olimpico. But look, El Shaarawy also was nearly the provider of a second goal for the Giallorossi when he was able to actually whip a low cross from the right side, which was actually destined to beat Lukaku at the near post. But give credit to, Gabia's sliding block, which intervened, and Magnan claimed, the loose ball as it was slowly rolling towards the line. And Sliva was actually there on hand to actually make an excellent, diving low stop to actually deny AC Milan in what was just like their last opportunity of the first half. And Reynolds, once again, lining up, a first-time shot from just outside the edge of the box, was actually heading inside the near post, but it was well stopped from the Roma goalkeeper. Yes, AC Milan, they did, try their best, but it was not enough. Maybe their best was just not enough, because the opening quarter of an hour of the second half went exactly as Roma would have hoped, with them actually dominating possession once again, and Milan failed to actually press effectively, Yeah, look, AC Milan, they just failed to, press effectively. And, we saw with Rangers, he had a team effort, which was just like saved. And then on the other end, Dybala also had another weak, attempt together too, when both should have actually done better, right? But look, it was just those kind of games where both sides, they just lacked that cutting edge. They were just not clinical enough in the second half. So it was just that one moment which separated both teams, because even just before the hour mark, Bioli made his first change, as Benasser was actually withdrawn for Yasin Adi, who entered the midfield control room. And in the stop-start, second half, Teo Hernandez had the next chance as he rose the highest at the far post to actually, head a corner towards goal. Yet it was just like a few yards wide. And a few minutes later, Rennes, again shot from the area of about 20 yards out. And again, Sfliller, right? Again, just about managed to actually parry it away. And the Roma goalkeeper, tipped what looked like a cross from Adli, over the bar. But, via the bar as it actually looked to be creeping in. And two more changes came for AC Milan in the 78th minute. Samuel, Chikwueze and Noah Okafor coming on for Pulisic as well as Leao. And AC Milan now missed, an absolutely huge chance to actually take a 1-1 scoreline to the capital. And Giroud was the culprit. Chikwueze did fantastically well to actually beat three men by the byline and pull back for the Frenchman, who was all alone inside the box, yet he hammered his shot against the top of the crossbar. And what seemed to actually be, hard to miss. And that's again, there was no need for Giroud to go for power. He should have just gone for placement. You understand? He should have just gone for placement. He should have just placed that ball properly. And, when I look at AC Milan's performance tonight, right, in this particular encounter, it looks like only two players really wanted to win the game, which was like Adli as well as Chikwueze, which were the substitutions that came on for AC Milan. So it's like, AC Milan are just struggling with the defense, defending from, those particular corners. Defending those corners is becoming a problem for AC Milan. They need to do more better, right? They have to do better.